Alright everyone, we start off today talking about the legendary amounts of coping and seething and damage control we see coming from the White House. Their initial messaging, I think they had like an internal focus group or something. Look at the initial reaction that they had to the current Biden gas crisis and all the other price problems, inflation going on. I think that they saw alarm bells. I don't think that the Biden bounce, which is a very short-term movement in polling as a result of a war breaking out, and this is innate, I don't think it's going to last long because if a bad economy, think of Obama, ekes away slowly at your support, how much more does a shitty economy, part of which is effectively self-inflicted? The U.S. does not have to ban, for example, Russian oil imports. The problem is that the novelty of sticking it to the Ruskies, I think, when people see the prices continue to rise, it is not going to be as popular after 2 or 3 months. Now, that will only have a tiny smidgen to do with the oil price. Most of it was before the Ukraine thing even happened. And the prices will, by the way, ease back somewhat, at least temporarily. Keep in mind the inflation is separate from that. But I don't think it's their messaging is off. I'm going to read you a tweet. This is from Elizabeth Warren, not bothering to link this one in the description. And by the way, for those of you on YouTube, of course, there will be a pinned comment down below with links to other video hosting sites that I use. I make exclusive content on those sites every day, so join me on one or more of those platforms. Don't just watch me on YouTube. You're not getting your full clank, and in some cases, you're not even getting the full news that you need to know because there are subjects that are now verboten on YouTube, and certainly opinions about non-verboten subjects that are also verboten to have. This is from Elizabeth Warren the other day. Democrats will use every tool to lower costs for families and take on big oil's price gouging. There's part of their messages. It's not our fault. Yeah, we didn't ban imports. We didn't regulate. We didn't do anything. Big oil is just trying to take more of your money. It's the big bad corporation line. Elizabeth Warren, 99% of the people that like her will like that message, so that's just red meat to the base. When you're trying to steal support around a core base and not try to get independents aboard who clearly aren't going to be receptive to that line, that's an admission of weakness. Just so we're aware, that's my analysis of this tweet as well, and Warren's fairly high up there. And understand this. If our nation relies on fossil fuels, that puts power in the hands of Putin and pushes our climate goals further away. We need more clean energy for the 21st century. Green energy, electric vehicles thing is not a great optical line to use when the American people increasingly are hurting economically. Gas prices have soared up to near record highs. Oil prices, tangential to that. Inflation is at a 40-year high and rising. There's no expectation anymore by any economist that that's going to ease off anytime soon. The economy is wrecked. We're on the edge, at least, of a recession. All we need now is for joblessness to start climbing back up, as it probably will because of the massive fuel costs. People will get laid off. If the costs are too high, businesses are not going to be able to keep all their workers on. Or they'll have to lower wages. That'd be funny. Oh yeah, people are making even less compared to inflation. Yeah, we've got literal bread lines. It's like Jimmy Carter all over again. Don't worry, it's big oil's fault. Now, there's also a tweet that the White House put out here. I'll grab the archived link. I want to show you this verbatim as well. Again, this is in the description, archived, of course, for posterity, although I think everything's automatically archived there. U.S. oil production is approaching record highs, and we pump more oil in POTUS's first year than Trump's first year. Now, again, misleading. Compared to the last year, well, you didn't pump as much. Oil production is projected to be up more than 1 million barrels a day from January to December this year. That's a projection. That's great, but it's barely compensating. And to rise nearly 700k barrels a day over the next year. Possible. But that's a projection, and that's long term. That doesn't help anyone right now. The next one is even funnier. This is halfway down here. The U.S. natural gas production is at a record high, which is misleading again. And the U.S. was a net exporter of petroleum and petroleum products in each of the last 2 years and will be a net exporter of natural gas for years to come. Now, when your focus is climate change, my electric vehicles, you're bragging about gas exports. See, there's a problem with this. This is true. The infographic's not wrong. Look at the date range at the bottom, and they've done this before. This is the most sleazy, underhanded White House strategy. If Trump had done this, and I probably did, so pardon my recollection, get crucified for it. This ends at the beginning of the Biden administration. When you see this mass increase in exports, it is almost all the result of the Trump presidency, with one important exception, the last year of Obama. And this is something you will recall that in the twilight of Obama's admin, when I rated his administration, I actually gave him credit for. The greatest thing that Obama ever did during his administration was at the end, when they were pushing for drilling for gas and oil on federal lands. They wanted to expedite permits, etc., more offshore drilling. Obama was pressured by the left wing of his party to say no. Oh my God, that's going to cause climate change. It's going to kill us all. We'll be like Tatooine in 5 years. And that was not hyperbolic. That were predictions that were made. He said, fuck you. He ignored the issue and said, yeah, drill, baby, drill. After fighting it for years. What happens? Natural gas starts to rise. Only part of this is the result of Trump's presidency. But unfortunately, if you look at this timeline, the vast majority of that new gas production, more than half of it, occurs under Donald Trump. So the White House is effectively giving credit to Trump for creating an energy boom in a resource that had been neglected for a long time. They used to burn off the natural gas from oil wells and not bottle it at all. They said, well, it'll create a pressure and it'll pump the oil out. So they just lit the gas on fire to get at the oil. Oh boy, trillions of dollars of fuel lost, by the way, through that process, and I believe still happens in most countries today that don't have hydraulic fracking processes the same way. The White House is accidentally praising Trump here. They're simultaneously saying to people, we need more green energy, but look, we're pumping all this natural gas, and oil exports will be up too. Well, which is it? So the White House is saying one thing, the rest of the party is saying an entirely different thing. Then you've got the let them eat cake style thing of just buy an electric car, and I pointed out the other day, and I might as well point it out again here. Let me assume that the person watching is pro-green energy. You really wish for a world which was entirely wind and hydrothermal and stuff. Fine, okay, as long as it's pragmatic and doesn't involve NIMBYism and or Chinese imports, I'm all for that. Green energy can become more technologically efficient over time. We're not near the limit of energy storage and capture like battery systems. The holy grail is finding a much better solution to how to store power. It's not even about producing it as much as storing it, making it more compact, long-lasting, and efficient. Batteries right now are very, very primitive. They're not that much different from what's been used for a half a fucking goddamn century. I have no doubt that over the next half century we will make leaps and bounds in this process. We have with solar already. You look at a solar panel from 1980, the amount of electricity it creates, the durability of it, and the amount of materials used in it, it's far less efficient in every way than the very flexible, almost paper-thin wafer sheet style solar you can get today, which creates more electricity with far less resources. That being said, even if I assume a massive boom in green energy efficiency, let's say tomorrow someone makes an invention, gets it fast-tracked through the government's regulatory process, and it doesn't get bought up patent-wise by China or something, that doubles the output of solar panels and completely eliminates the Chinese mineral needs from them. They've developed an entirely new kind of process that makes it affordable for everyone, and it can be done today. We can 3D print an infinite number of panels. Let's say that we start doing that. First, you have to build the factories to print the panels. You still do need to set up a line for your resources. Then you need to produce them. Then you need to install them, etc., etc. Under the best case scenario, this would not affect the price of electricity or make the grid fundamentally massively different for years. That's the best case scenario. The green energy hawks that use it as a private piggy bank are saying, well, by 2035, we want to eliminate fossil fuel usage in terms of generating electricity at the centralized level. That won't happen. That will fall flat. I guarantee it won't be anywhere near the level that they'll need. You'd have to build more nuclear for that. Try getting that through the permitting process in most countries in the Western world. Half of them want to eliminate all their nuclear power. There's a trade-off there, admittedly. The electric vehicle thing is a complete meme because of the amount of coal, oil, and gas used in direct generation of power. Solar and wind are a tiny minority of the power generated in Western nations, for the most part. Certainly in most of the U.S. It's coal, oil, gas, and nuclear, and hydrothermal to an extent. Here's the thing. How is this going to help the situation? It won't. Green energy is not going to help. The only thing that will help is trying to fundamentally transform the way in which we get oil and gas. Now, we've already got better tech than we did 10, 15 years ago. That part's solved, hence the natural gas boom. If anything, we should be looking into converting mass transit systems to natural gas and away from old oil and so forth. Got more gas anyway at this point. It's cheap. It's not affected by the oil sanctions, at least. We should do that. There are already buses. I think the buses in Burlington, Vermont run on natural gas. It is cheaper than using standard fuel. Just to be clear. It may take a little bit more maintenance, I believe, but it's cheaper. That is true. Well, then convert those vehicles and stop worrying about grandma with the pickup truck. Grandma with the pickup truck is not giving money to Russia. You've just blocked their oil. So how, by the way, Elizabeth Warren, would reliance on fossil fuels help Russia if we're not buying fossil fuel from Russia? It only helps the U.S. economy because then you need to make up that additional demand. You've got lower supply. U.S. manufacturing can do that. Instead, we've got a frenetic Biden admin response that says, oh, well, we can probably get some more oil from Venezuela and from the Iranians. Why don't you just produce it domestically? Why don't you greenlight Keystone? These people are failing on this issue. Add this to the list of failures, the growing list of failures Biden has to deal with, and the Democrats down ballot during the midterms. Juan Williams can come out and say, well, Joe Biden is going to be the comeback kid maybe. No, he's not. I hate to tell you, but the economic damage that was done was mostly pre-Ukraine anyway. Russia could evacuate Ukraine tomorrow, apologize and say, well, we just can't deal with this. Zelensky will get his way. We're withdrawing from Crimea. Give him everything. Just Putin gets killed, negotiations go on, you get another Boris Yeltsin-style moment, or Gorbachev or something, and they say, fuck it, and we're not going to hardline him anymore. We can't deal with the repercussions. Even then, if the economy were to heal back to its pre-Ukraine invasion levels, things would still be shitty. Inflation would still be high and rising. Costs would still be running well ahead of wages. Labor force participation would still be on the low side. All of these problems are not solved by that because they already existed before the Ukraine issue. So the White House is in damage control. And I love it when they do the let them eat cake thing. I fondly remember when inflation was it didn't exist, then it was transitory, then it was good for us, and now it's the fault of the Russians. You just throw a dart at a goddamn dartboard and you get the messaging of this White House. This is a big problem for them. That's about all. Peace out.